Hi, my name is Megan, and I'm one of the pastors here.
My name's Joni.
And today we're going to talk about why it's so important to talk about mental health. Why is it so important, Joni?
I think because it's always been so taboo for so many years, right? And I think probably if I were to maybe sum it up is because church is supposed to be a safe place, right? A safe, healthy place. The thing is, though, is the church is made of people.
Yeah.
And, we're all broken. And I think a lot of times we don't know how to manage our own, much less know how to manage someone else's or dealing with somebody else who's struggling. And the church is a safe, healthy place, supposed to be, for those who are suffering. And I think once we realize that it's either someone else's turn or it's our turn, suffering is happening.
Yeah.
Right?
We don't get a pass. Everybody's dealing with something.
Yeah.
We all go through, whether it's stress or anxiety or depression or PTSD or grief, anything. There's so much that we're going through, and we all are struggling. We all have something. Yeah. And like you said, if we're not going through it, we've gone through it.
Absolutely. So I think the work is how not to ostracize somebody else who is, and then also not to believe the lie that it's only happening to us when it's our turn, right? Yeah. So I think that definitely is the work. It's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah.
I don't want to put a just in front of that because there's nothing just about it. It is hard work because when you're going through it yourself, it really does seem like you are the only one and that it is only happening to you and that it will never end.
Yeah, that was my story. That's why I'm so passionate about talking about mental health and starting these conversations, because I didn't feel like I could start that conversation. It's something I was like, I don't know what I'm dealing with, what's going on, and like internally feeling like something's wrong. So now that I've been able to go to counseling and talk through those things and get a way to manage my anxiety and get through that and be able to use it in a positive light and not always look at it as a negative way, that just changed the game for me. And so sharing that story, saying that I want to talk about this is huge.
Absolutely. And I think for me, I had a period of some really deep depression. And I remember there was so much fear that came with, it's always going to be this way.
Yeah.
And that's so defeating, right? So if you're already struggling with, the fatigue that comes with it, feeling overwhelmed and not good enough, all the that comes with it, right? The idea of trying to figure out how to pull your bootstraps up in that moment, right, is just way too overwhelming. And so that's the beauty of having that other person. I mean, the Bible even talks about that we're comforted so that we can in turn comfort others, right? Like, if that wasn't part of the plan, it wouldn't be in there, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I think we're supposed to be allowing ourselves to be comforted.
Yeah.
So that we can in turn comfort others, right?
Yeah, and it's so important because I think it's like over 50 million people in the U.S. struggle with mental health. So it's so important to talk about.
And that's just the ones who are admitting it.
Yeah, and there's a lot more.
Absolutely. There are a ton more, right? Yeah. And there are a lot of people who are struggling with something and they don't even know that's what it is.
Yeah.
Right? They just think it's a character defect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think another big piece to why we need to talk about it is because when things are spoken out, they just lose their power. Like, it's just not as heavy. It's not as scary anymore. And you realize the other person didn't scream and run away, right?
Yeah.
So, which is pretty comforting.
Yeah. So a great way to start that conversation would be listening, right? It would be listening to the other people and their struggles, because I think we go by so much that it's like, hey, how are you doing? You're like, oh, I'm good. And you don't really get into those conversations a lot of time.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite things is when you meet somebody, it's, hey, how are you? I'm good. How are you? And we ask a question, but we never stop to get an answer, right? Everybody just keeps on going. So it instead of asking those, yes or no questions, it's like, hey, how is such and such going, right? Something to reference, maybe going on at work or whatever.
Yeah.
Or we could say something like, it seems like, you might be overwhelmed, or if that were me going through that, I would feel overwhelmed. Like, how are you doing? How are you managing that? Careful with those yes and no questions, because we Americans, we like fun, fast, and easy, right? So if I can give you some quick little answer and I can get rid of that tension, I'm going to do it. I'll just say fine, right?
Yeah.
Everybody in America is fine.
Right. And there's so much more that we could go into. Like, this is a bigger topic than we can do in one little video, but this is a way to start the conversation, is talking about it and having these kind of conversations with others. So we hope that you can maybe do that today. We have a lot of other resources that we've been creating, so check those out as well. And hopefully you can start the conversation about mental health in your own life or the people that are around you. And we'll see you later.